It's Deb from Deb's Days. It's Tutorial Tuesday, and today we're going to make a quick kids quilt. If you've been a reader of my blog, you know I've been sewing for kids' charities for a long time. Today's project is one of the thinner quilts, since its warmth comes from a fleece backing instead of using batting. It's definitely one of the quickest quilts we can make. This video will show you how to make a quilt measuring about 40 inches by 52 inches. Along with your regular sewing supplies, for this project you will need 4.5-inch wide fabric strips for the main part of the quilt. I'm using the entire length of the fabric, so they're about 44 inches long. You'll need 8 of those strips. 4.5-inch wide strips for the borders. Again, cut the length of the fabric. You'll need 4 of those. And 1 1/8 of a yard of that 58-inch wide fleece. You can find a written version of this supply list with the measurements on debsdays.com. I've added a direct link in the description right below this video. Begin by sewing 2 of your interior strips together lengthwise using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Add another strip and attach it with another 1/4 inch seam allowance. And do the same with the rest of the interior strips. When you have them all sewn together, press the seams to one side. And then we already have the main part of the quilt done. Some of my fabrics were 44-inch fabrics and some were about 45 inches. So if you find yours were the same way, you might need to trim off the bottom to even those things up. Now we need to attach one of those white strips to one side of the quilt top, again using that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Do some trimming on the bottom if you need to. On the other side, go ahead and stitch another white strip. Trim that end too. Now we're going to go ahead and sew a white strip to the top, and then sew a white strip to the bottom. If you need to do any additional trimming, even on the sides, go ahead and do that. Now place the quilt top right side down on top of the fleece piece. Go ahead and smooth it out. Depending on the accuracy of your seam allowance during the sewing process and the accuracy of cutting on your fleece, you might have a little bit of fleece sticking out. That's okay for now. Go ahead and pin it or clip it all together to hold everything in place while you sew. Use a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge of the quilt top, not from that raggedy fleece, to stitch all the way around the top. Leave a space for turning though. Make sure it's at least big enough to get your hand in. Now go ahead and trim off any of that extra fleece you may have. Turn the quilt right side out. We need to deal with that opening now. Fold the opening under 1/4 inch and pin it closed. We're going to iron the quilt top on a lower heat, not high heat, and definitely don't get the iron on the fleece because it'll melt. We need to iron that opening as well. Then go ahead and top stitch all the way around the quilt. Make sure you catch that opening we'd left for turning. Then go ahead and quilt it by doing a stitch in the ditch, which means just sewing straight down the middle of the seams. Or you can tie it as well. Just a heads up, most charities don't like tied quilts, just so you know. Whichever way you choose to secure the 2 layers, it's going to be a super quick quilt for you. If you'd like to see more sewing and craft projects like this one, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and stop by the blog at debsdays.com. You'll find free patterns, supply lists, and links to more sewing and crafting videos. See you next week with another project.